this is cool. Like, like, let's do this. Yeah.
Do the right thing at all expense.
Yeah. And that's what you do. And it is relationships, right?
One thing we've learned is we can't help everybody.
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you have a chance, do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff for us. And if you want to take the conversation beyond what you're just listening to here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. I got the Bryans with me today. If you don't know who they are, Farr, Brian Walton of BFARR. How's everything going, guys? Sunny Florida.
Good. Yeah, well, not sunny right this second, but we needed the rain so bad. We're happy to get it.
Nice. Well, if you could give Brian Farr, if you want to kind of give us a kind of the first glimpse into how you got into roofing and how you started BFARR and how things are going.
Well, it's been a long journey. Started actually roofing when I was 13 years old. I was working for a friend's father who owned a roofing company. I was doing it every summer while I was going to school. Did that through college and then started flipping houses and lost pretty bad when the market slid in 2008. Got out of general construction and went back into roofing sales. And from there, I got my GC and my roofing license, and I've been doing this on our own now since 2016.
Cool. Mr. Walton.
Yeah, so I my whole 20s, I was a bartender and taught surf lessons. Actually moved to Costa Rica for a couple of years and taught surf lessons down there. Met my wife when I was 29, and that's when I got into the industry. I said, I got to do something better than what I'm doing. And so I started roofing when I was 29 and been in the industry. Brian Farr and I were actually, he was a client of mine. I was on the manufacturing side. I worked for a shingle manufacturer. And I always said, man, I'd love to come work for that guy, even for free with the amount of knowledge he has. And sure enough, I was transitioning and he was looking for a right-hand man to come aboard. And this was in January of 2020 is when I started with Brian Farr.
Nice. And so you had the manufacturer kind of relationship. You had the real job after teaching surfing for so many years. Take care of the family. So when you started BFARR, Brian, like what was you'd been in the industry? What was your motivation?
So I actually started BFARR Investments when I was flipping houses in 2003. And that kind of morphed into doing work for other people. So I had to take investments off the name. And that's when kind of BFARR Enterprises and BFARR Contracting started. Same company per se, it just changed with the times. And, I've always, the times that I have worked for other people, I've always worked for the best. And I've learned the right way to do things. And it's some things that weren't a part of that environment was a culture. And that's something that we've done different here is treat people a little bit different. Respect everybody, try to make sure that they're a good fit prior to hiring. Don't hire upon just performance. I think there's some fails that have happened when we've done that in the past. And really the motto has kind of been get good people and find a spot for them. And that's worked. That's been great. We don't have a weak link in the chain right now. We're 30 plus employees besides subcontractors, and we're doing great.
That's awesome, man. Like in that journey, sometimes early in business you just need bodies, right? When in the journey did that change to, hey, now we're being very intentional about the hires that we're making and that culture fit?
Well, I think it happened early on and then it left and then it came back. Early on, things were tight. We were smaller. When you add one person to 6, it's a bigger difference than adding one to, 30. So it was important who we brought on. and then it kind of went away a little bit when we needed to get work done. Now we're more proactive on having people before we have the work. So it's a good spot. We're able to actually have people in place prior to some of the bigger jobs coming in because they're already on staff. So we can handle just about any size project without having to bring anybody else on. And that's a lot with our relationships with our vendors, our relationships with our subs. So I'd say it happened early and left, and then it came back, and now it's probably more important because one bad person can kill the entire culture.
For sure.
It's a toxic environment when one person walks into office, and we felt it, we've had it. So that, that my answer is it happened twice.
That's interesting because I was actually having this conversation this morning with a Pitch Pro movement group, with Adam Bensman's group, and we were talking about, we've been going through this exercise of forecasting hires for growth, and a lot of times people need the person, so then they start to go and hire for that position. But if you can create that runway, get them trained up properly, so Correct. That when they're in their job, actually doing their job, when you need them to do their job, they're ready, right?
Everybody interviews great too. And then you find out who they are when they come aboard, and they might take a whole nother spot from what you originally thought. So that just happened recently. We brought somebody on a month ago, and after 1 week, where he came on for 1 week, and it changed drastically. Just we saw a bigger role for that person to take, and it wasn't really even a promotion. It was just a different idea than what we'd originally brought him on for. So you try to change people to do something, and you don't get the most out of them. Or if you change something for the person, I think sometimes it's a win-win for both.
For sure. We run EOS in our business. And so that's kind of a core concept in EOS is the right person in the right seat. So You're asking yourself, do they have the capacity? Do they want it, need it, or do they want it, get it? Do they get it, want it, and have the capacity? So that tells you if they get it. If they don't get the job that they're doing, then maybe they're a better fit for a different role, right? And that we're looking at that all the time through the lens of EOS. So that I love that, man. How do you hire? What's your process?
Well, we used to really kind of say like, man, we really need a sales guy. We really need, and what's happening now is I think our online presence and our name recognition, people are finding us. Just yesterday, I got a call from a guy in Washington State. Says, hey, I'm moving there at the end of this month. I'm bringing my 13-year-old with me. I see you guys, he has the same kind of credentials. He's works for Master Elite, President's Club. Says, I really want to come work with you guys. So at the moment, and this could change anytime, but at the moment, people are seeking us out where we have, sometimes 3 or 4 good candidates for one position. And sometimes, it's like drafting a team, and so sometimes we might only need one, but we say, okay, let's bring 2 on, and the growth that we've had since 2020. I mean, it's been a double over year. 2020, we doubled what we did 19, and then, did the same in 21, did the same last year. And we're getting to those higher numbers. I don't know if we'll be able to double again this year, but it's been incredible.
That's awesome, man. And what I wrote down, I like to talk about marketing, and people don't think of marketing sometimes other than lead generation, right? I think there's really four focuses of your marketing. You're marketing for new customers, you're marketing to your existing customers, you're marketing to your existing employees, and you're marketing to future employees. That's kind of a way that I've been thinking about it in the last 6 months or so. And I'm like, because of that, your brand on your online presence, your brand in your market, that's attractive to people. Good people want to work at good companies. Right. So they're going to seek that out. They're going to look for a company that, the worst thing, say on the sales side, right? The worst thing that you can do as a salesperson is sell something that you're not fully sold on. right? So if you're going out there selling roofs, but the company the company you work for that's doing the builds and installation, like if they're not performing at a high level, you start pulling back from that, right?
Well, when salespeople come on, everyone's a little skeptical at first, and then we kind of see them evolve and grow relatively quick because they see they have a good team behind them. And one thing that we've done too is we don't just take any salesmen. We don't knock doors. We handle calls that come in the office and work off referrals and reviews. We're very selective. One salesman that we actually got rid of one of our best sales guys because it wasn't a good fit for what we were doing. So if you're only focusing on the numbers, I think you can tear apart an office pretty fast too.
For sure. You've had a couple of those people, I'm sure. It sounds like you had to get rid of that one right there.
Just a couple. And they were the top performers too, funny enough, Jim. They were always the ones that were selling the most and, could turn a $15,000 deal into a $30,000 deal, but also
with it came problems, everybody walking on eggshells. They want other people to do things for them. They're expecting, not to do their full job description and pass things off. And that just doesn't really work. People start resenting them pretty quickly.
For sure. But I'm bringing in so many sales, right? Like I see that in some companies where like there's an ego, and there has to be some ego to sales, right? That confidence and an ego in sales a little bit, but it is crazy sometimes how a salesperson believes that they gets a little bit too far in the belief that they are responsible for the success of the business.
So like when you mentioned about the lead gen and branding and whatnot, the branding helps the sales guys close deals when the customers ultimately know that there's a solid team behind the guy in front of them. So, they're not out there alone. And by all means, we praise them for the hard work and good work that they do. But we try to create a different environment than starting it's like a cold relationship when they're knocking on the door, starting by saying, hello, you've never heard of me, you never met me, but you might have damage on your roof. We don't do much insurance work. 95+% is retail.
Yep.
So that type of environment it helps us and helps the sales guys if it's a warm lead. If it's somebody who looked at our online presence, looked at our Google reviews, done their research prior to being introduced to us.
Well, and even more if they've seen our commercial on TV or they've seen our truck. Orlando's, there's a lot going on in Orlando. And so for someone to say, oh, yeah, I've seen you guys, I recognize you, it gives the sales guy that little edge too. So
it's huge, man. Orlando's a competitive market. Like you guys are,
it's heavily saturated.
But it's not talked about as a competitive market like Dallas is, or like certain other markets. It's like, oh, this is the. But man, I know Orlando, and Orlando is a very competitive market, and that is
talked about here in Orlando. It's talked about here in Orlando. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of roofers, roofing contractors, roofing companies, but you hear about DFW a lot for sure.
Kind of back to that branding, Jim. You remember I started in January of 2020, and that was right when COVID had hit. And we were basically, when I came on, we were relying on the LSA leads, and we were getting 7, 8, 10 opportunities a week, and COVID hit and everything just stopped. Just 100%. When Brian Farr and I we were watching the news, and I remember it's just crazy to think about now. We even had time in the middle of the day to go for like a 2-mile bike ride.
Staring at each other's eyes in the office. There was just nothing.
There's some weeks we had zero roofs.
It was a weird time.
But we kind of decided, hey, let's, what are we going to do? And, there are different avenues. We could go to like paid leads, like you said earlier, Jim, or we could really start putting money into our branding of our company. And I remember, being in the manufacturing side, I had other friends who were in similar situations, and to watch those guys kind of pass us by canvassing and door knocking with really no overhead other than a polo shirt, maybe some contract. It was a weird feeling. But it's after a year or so, we really started to see that traction.
It takes a little while for that to happen, but once it
can't turn it off.
Yeah,
that's the thing about brand. You can't turn it off. Like but it's a lot of work, and you have to have faith in the outcome, right? Like you have to know that you're doing the right things. You have to hold the course. I think that you could probably do some of both on the way, right? Like you could do some paid leads. You could potentially do some door knocking and work on your brand at the same time. But if you are going to, there is an outrageous return on investment on brand. It's immeasurable.
And we're still doing some of both. I mean, we want to make sure that in down times and even good times, our sales guys have something to do. So
that's right.
We're not 100% one. You got to find that appropriate mix to make sure they have enough on their plate to stay busy.
For sure. But what you also mentioned too was that the conversation becomes different at the kitchen table, right? Like I remember I've had Chuck Toki on my podcast a couple of times. He's a sales trainer. He used to be the vice president of sales for Able Roof, Mr. Roof. They did, I don't know, like 180 million in roofing or, roofing and exterior contracting. He would say that they would go to people's houses and the people were looking for a way to do business with them. They were much higher. If you looked at cost, there was a big difference between them and the competitors. But people would look for a way to do business with them because they've already chose it. They chose them before they got to the kitchen table.
That's exactly it. When they're calling you, it's a lot different than when you're calling them. So I always kind of say, choose your contractor. Don't let them pick you. Is kind of what we've been saying. And that's kind of what goes back to what you're saying there.
I like that. But then you can have the brand, but within the brand is the representation from your people, right? So your people are doing good work. They're having good communication with customers. They're doing their part too, which we kind of talked about. Having the right people on the team. How have you structured your team from through we'll call it the customer journey, right? From that, they're starting to see you through brand, then your sales team into your production team. And how do you guys think about that?
I mean, so obviously the inbound lead and all that, but I think a lot of it has to do with the sales guys. I remember when in our earlier days, we had, kind of a runner and gunner sales guy who said, write anything up and, and kind of turning like this pile of mess to production. And at that time I was production. So I was there to clean up all of these messes. So what kind of the way we work it is everything is super structured on the sales ends guy. So in order to get a folder into the office, there's a lot of approvals that take place. There's a lot of expectations on that end. And what we found is that, 97% of the issues in production are from the original inspection from the sales guy or, details that were missed. So we're the amount of roofing knowledge that we, ideally I want our sales guys to have more roofing knowledge than most production managers for other companies. Is basically what I'm looking for. Salesmanship, yes, but I want them to know everything about the details and stuff like that. And so what that equates to is there's little surprises. There's a lot less surprises to the homeowner during the build. There's less surprises to the production team during the build. And everything runs a lot smoother. I think the expectations of the homeowner are a lot more.
Your expectations are set. They figured out the problems on the front side. They calculated them into the proposal. So the talk's already been had with the homeowner and say, this is what we're looking at. This is why you had problems previously. This is what we're going to do different, and try to differentiate ourselves from some of the other people.
For sure, and that. So you're solving problems in production by training your salespeople. What does that training process look like? How are you getting them as knowledgeable as Brian said, as knowledgeable as someone as the next company?
We're taking people that have never done any roofing sales at all and brought them on, and then we've had some that came from other companies and changed the way they thought. So the process, I guess, is different from person to person, but it goes back to getting a good person and then finding a spot or someone who's worth putting the time into. So we'll have them go to job sites with the production team. We'll have them, before they run any leads, they'll have weeks of training, and it's not just the sales process; it's roofing. And then we have meetings every Friday where we actually go over the problems that happened on the jobs. That way, one person doesn't make the same mistake as the other, and it's kind of trained again. So if a problem happens again, it's revisited in that sales meeting, and that way it's not overlooked twice, or at least hopefully a long time goes in between the two.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, is that you're getting the people before the work too, is what it sounds like, right? You're allowing that time to train them, to get them up to speed. If from your perspective, and of course it'd be kind of an average, but like when you're looking at that person who's green, never been in the roofing industry, doesn't know anything about anything, what are you thinking? Like when you bring that person on, how fast are you hoping they would get up to speed? I guess would be
that's a good question. So it's going to take a couple months for them to get up to speed, but what'll happen, because there's different layers of kind of, it doesn't really just go from the sales guy, like, okay, we're going to be starting your roof here in the next couple of weeks. It goes to the sales manager for approval. And then if there's anything wrong with the folder, he doesn't just kick it back to the sales guy and say, fix it. He's going to sit down and kind of coach him along. And then it goes, Brian, Farr, and myself are going to look at the folder. And then it's going to go over to the director of roofing operations to look at the folder. And it's going to go to the production manager when the scheduling time comes. So there's so many layers that we have such a good idea. We used to not have that. We used to just, I remember, giving the crew an address and Monday to go to this place, everything's spelled out as far as what are we doing with the satellite? What are we doing with the gutters? Are we reflashing the chimney? And it's really just like a big takeoff sheet that the sales guys, and there's not allowed to be any blanks left on that sheet. So there's a lot of like not applicable, they don't have skylights, but we still like every single little aspect of the job is kind of looked at. And again, I think that Friday meeting, it's impressive how the biggest part of that Friday meeting is production related issues rather than salesmanship and how to close more jobs and how to drive sales. It's really most of those meetings are. I think
the education that's passed along to our sales guys is passed along to the homeowner so they can make the right decision, and informing them along the way differentiates us and whether we're higher or lower. If we're higher, maybe that explains why. They'd say, well, you're doing this, or the other guys might be doing it and never told them, but we're trying to catch the details that others aren't, and just making a difference on the install.
And it is in those details and in that education, the expectation is set properly, and I think that's where things go wrong, right?
We still have mistakes. It's not we try our best to make them, fewer and smaller, but we're all human, and there's mistakes on jobs, but we really try to minimize them.
And there always will be. Mm-hmm. It's construction, right? Like there's nothing you could do about it, but the way that you approach it, and the way that you communicate that to a homeowner, and then the way that you deal with it, right? Hey, this went wrong. This is how we're fixing it. This is how we're going forward. Like in that communication is where, how do you guys manage the kind of day-to-day communication with the customers? Do you have a lot of stuff automated? Do you rely on that?
That's one thing that we probably do different than most is we run to the fire on any of the issues and problems, send them pictures throughout, document the process, document the demo, the install. Or I'll let Brian.
So it's kind of, so I've got a lot to do with the job Nimbus backend automations and stuff like that. So as the status gets approaching, as the permit's approved, the homeowner is going to get an email what to expect, what to protect around the house. And then we got to kind of plug in where as we plug in the delivery date of the materials and the dumpster and all that stuff's automated to the homeowner and an email as far as what to expect and everything. And then I like to have the sales guys, take a screenshot of that and send it to the homeowner, just kind of that double check. And then during the day of the build, technology is amazing, and especially for Brian and I, we can not leave the office and see everything that's going on all over. So I kind of give a little plug to Company Cam and the fact that we're able to take those photos that the crews all have access to, and they're uploading, by the hour, and we're able to give the homeowner real-time information. Maybe they're in their living room kind of staring at the ceiling like, God, I hope everything's going okay, or maybe they're just at the office for the day working, or maybe they're even out of town. So that constant communication with them.
And having production look over pictures, whether they're on the site or not, they saw, noticed things prior to it becoming an issue. And so that Company Cam has been great. Job Nimbus has been great. we've added a lot of technologies over the last few years, and they're all added expenses, but there's a big value that's associated with them too.
Yeah, I mean, you think about company cam is whatever it is a month per user, but if that production manager in the office can spot something and
Absolutely.
right, like it's not even close to there's nothing
that could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's
we look at the bills every month and dang, but it's you're right, because it could be margins could be shrunken on every other job, and the money get eaten up really fast.
For sure. And when it's a big thing, like that you gotta catching those mistakes early is extremely important. So you guys have what did it sounded like to me, like 4 levels of QC before it's kind of getting scheduled and stuff like that. Is that what I heard?
Exactly. Yeah. Sales manager, director of roofing operations, Brian Farr, and I, and then the production manager as well. We call the production manager the air traffic controller. He looks like a stock trader. It's funny. He's got 3 screens set up, and he's kind of,
but that's been part of the success is the connection between sales and production.
Yeah. What things get caught most?
Well, just really, we'll look at pictures. So the inspection starts when the sales guy's on the job. They'll take pictures around the perimeter, get them on the house. And then when that comes in, they'll turn the folder in, and then we'll still look at the pictures to make sure that all the notes are needed to build the job correctly.
So some of the things that get caught are like, what are we doing with these spiked gutters? Are we reusing them or are we installing them? Some of it's like, hey, look at that rake right there. Doesn't it look like that's 2 layers of shingles? We might want to go back out there. You sure that's a 312? Little things like there's like some funky there's nothing in there about a chimney flash. You're looking at it like, man, the stucco's all cracked and it's wood framed. That probably we're gonna have to reflash that. So all of those little things that are like they're not game time decisions.
Yeah.
And the guys, they get 120, 100, 120, 150 sometimes photos before the production crew gets another 200 to 300 photos, and then our final walk guy gets another 75 to 100. So for most jobs, we have 500 to 600 photos at the end of the job that tells the story. It's incredible, the process beforehand of them walking around the perimeter and trying to find anything wrong with the fascia or the soffit or anything like that.
We'll number the sheets of plywood because it's an additional expense to show the homeowner. There's we don't pass off every picture, but we'll send off progress pictures to the homeowner to make them feel better, like you said, if they're at work or in another country or whatever. So the confidence is built with the amount of communication too.
Yeah, for sure. That communication, that's everything. But it sounds like you're focused on the communication in a lot of different aspects of the business, because that's, we could talk about the communication with the customer, but the communication between the team members is also how things don't fall apart, right?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. As you guys have been building this and building the brand. From our conversations, you guys have been getting more and more involved in the community. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did that start? What do you guys do in the community, and how does it impacted the business?
Well, a lot of it started probably in 21 for Christmas. We did the Angel Tree sponsorship, which is a gift giving for less fortunate families in the community. We sponsored it, but we were the news station that told us we're the only ones who actually contributed time too. Like, we were there for the gift handouts, and my daughter had special needs. She passed away a couple years ago, and we took every special needs kid that was in the program, and we were the ones who bought the gifts for them. So we adopted 40 kids ourselves that year, and then we did it the same the next year. But what we found was Salvation Army's already got something set in place that we didn't have the infrastructure for to help out the community. So we supported them. Instead of developing a whole system ourselves or whatnot and being efficient with the processes and kind of spin our wheels, we donated time to them. And we have guys go every Tuesday to help pass out food and clothing in the community. We've done a lot of their events, sometimes on the weekends and stuff too. So we've done a good bit with Salvation Army, and then we started a foundation for my daughter, Maddie Farr Foundation, and have used that now to do we've only got one golf tournament under our belt. Our next one's next week. The golf tournament so far, I've been to raise money for a single child, a single family. And the first one raised a little over 20,000, I think. And this one's set to do more than that. I've also started swim scholar. Well, this is kind of getting ready to launch. One of the favorite things I would do with my daughter was swim school on Friday nights. So we're sponsoring swim scholarships for special needs kids. It's not just for fun, but it's for safety, for being comfortable around water. So that's something we actually put out a bulletin for that a couple days ago, and we're taking in applicants so we can try to get kids that are in the most need for that. So we're trying to do things. We're in a position that we can, give back and help others. I think we're both kind of frugal and live underneath our means and modest. So part of the giving back to the community is something that means, I think, and it helps with our culture and our environment here. We don't have too many people who say no or don't want to be a part of it. So, you kind of know who they are as well. So I don't want to say it's a screening process, but it's kind of a good way to know if they want, if they care, if they're going to do right, where their head's at. And so it's really kind of held a lot of us together doing some of those things.
It's part of the orientation process is to go, so something we implemented April, May of last year was for every re-roof that we do, we just add $50 to the proposal. So if it's a $15,000 roof, it's $15,050. And we put a little note in there for the homeowner, like, hey, by the way, it's $50 more than you should be paying, but we're going to match that $50 and we're going to take $100 at the end of the year and give it to Salvation Army. So we did the same. We did that last year, I think from like March to November, I think it was, it was $21,700. It's just a little bit from every roof, but it really, really adds up. And then on top, and that's kind of what he was talking about, is they were surprised that most people, when they want to do like an angel tree sponsorship or something, they just kind of want to pay the money and they want to be on the news and have that sponsorship. We were sending our guys to like the phone bank while they were, raising money on the phone bank, and everybody got involved. It was like a team building and kind of morale boosting. So it was just a win-win-win all over. And then even every Tuesday, there's like a round robin. It's on everyone's calendar and they can choose to go. And it's really quick. It's from like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. But you go to the Salvation Army and you put sandwiches and waters and food and clothing and all this stuff into bags and drive around downtown Orlando, right next to the soccer stadium and all that, and pass out these items to people, not in like low income housing, but people that are on the streets living in tents. Or maybe hopefully they have a tent, so it's really, really cool to get involved with that. And then these golf tournaments have been a lot of fun. We have one next weekend, and that is for a little girl named Decline. And she's 12 months old and she has leukemia. So she's been at one of the local hospitals for the last few months. And so everything we do, it's amazing to see how many people will chip in for food or signage. And it's just amazing to see people, everybody wants to help. And if you just give them an opportunity, they will. But all the money that's raised for that is go right to that direct family, and they're just such good people. So we're blessed. And it's all ran through the Matty Farr Foundation that Brian Farr created.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few roofing contractors who have really really put effort into their philanthropy and made that part of what part of their business, right? And one of the things that I heard so much from is it really changes the culture, right? I've told this story before, but like my dad worked for a mining company in northern Minnesota. Like the reason he worked there is because it was a good paying job in the area, right? Like that was why you got a job years ago, was just it was like you had to go to work, right? Like and you got the best job you kind of could at the time, and you didn't think about culture and fit and, that wasn't a thing. But nowadays, man, there's a different why for people. Like people love to work for companies that are doing more than just making a buck.
Well, employee retention's been great, and we've had people come to work for less money here, turn down bigger opportunities because they enjoy coming to work. So we got people who have tough times at home in tough positions, and they come here to get away from the house. We try to create an environment where they're happy to be at work. So I've had a job before where I was in an office in a cubicle, and the days went by so slow. And I don't think I've heard that from anybody here. I think everybody kind of has a place, and we're actually having a pool party tomorrow with all the employees, and it's kind of a show of appreciation. So we, I'm not saying everybody does or everybody doesn't do it, but what we're doing is something special for everybody we have.
Yeah, that's super cool. And when did you start, I guess, how long ago did you start kind of your community involvement?
It was really started by doing just one event.
Yeah.
And again, it was by being able to support a company that had good intentions, because the infrastructure that it takes to do it and the time that it takes to do it is a lot. And we didn't have that. We didn't have either the time or the infrastructure. So we used theirs.
You mean Salvation Army? Yeah. And I think like 85 cents out of the dollar goes back to the cause for Salvation Army. So
that's awesome.
And to see the inner workings of most of the people on the board, I think all the people on the board there are volunteers.
And they've all got stories of the past of being big, successful entrepreneurs, and now they're out of that or older, and kind of it's their time now to serve, and that's so that's special. We met some really good people that part of the program. I haven't met a bad person as part of the program.
Yeah, that's so cool. Have you had has your team come to you with any additional like ideas, like, hey, I'm really involved in this cause or that cause, and like, has anything come from the team?
Well, one thing we've learned is we can't help everybody. There's some things that come in, and it is a time and a financial constraint. So I mean, we're open to kind of any ideas. I don't know of any real particular.
I think positively enough, I think BFARR is the one igniting this kind of giving back mentality. So I don't think it was really instilled. I'm not saying about people who were never thought of it before, but yeah, we haven't had a whole lot of requests, really any requests for.
I think it's kind of the same thing. We've become their tool to give back, and we're using another tool. We were the ones that got them to start thinking about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I don't think we've had any real special requests, but we've had calls come in around Christmas when they see the sponsorships and whatnot, and we have to kind of, we have to pick and choose what we can do and what we can't do. But yeah, I don't know if there's any special requests. Just everybody's hopped on board with what we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how is it for you? For you on a day-to-day basis, where it sounds like you've made your business more than just money too.
I think that, the people and the sales guys that have that as their mindset probably aren't the ones that we want as part of our team. Obviously, like you said, you want somewhat of a positive, confident person as a sales guy, but you don't want a cocky or arrogant one.
I think what we're seeing, Jim, is a lot of buy-in from everybody. I mean, everybody genuinely cares about the place they work at. I started talking to Brian Farr. We're both Brian, so I go by Walton, he goes by Farr. But I was talking to Farr this morning, and I was like, man, it's just incredible to see that we just implemented a director of roofing operations over the last 6 months. Our sales manager is handling all, a lot of the day-to-day. It's a production manager is handling the day-to-day. We just hired a project manager to oversee all the multifamily exterior jobs that we have going on. It's incredible to see, the drive that they all want to make BFARR the best roofing company in Central Florida or the best siding company in Florida. So it's that was his exact words yesterday.
Well, one guy, a guy who had just started, his wife's happy to have him around now. He's coming home from a different company I've worked at, and he comes home, upset every day or bothered or been beat up all day. And, he told me that they went on a walk to the lake that night, and they hadn't done anything like that in a long time. So they're taking it out of here. They're taking it home with them.
Yeah.
So it makes us both happy to see that and hear that we're doing better things than just putting on roofs.
Yeah. And if your team, if you put the right processes in place, like you've done, and it makes their job, there's less headache in their job, right? Not that there isn't stuff that goes wrong still, because it's still, like we said earlier, it's still construction, right? Like stuff can still happen. But if you don't have to bring that home, boy, that's a big thing. I've had
Huge.
those jobs, man. Like where it's like the whole thing just comes home with you, and you just, you're not actively participating at home with your family, and it's just not as, it's not a great thing. So that's awesome. One of the things that you guys have done is created, with your brand building, but also you've built hundreds of reviews, right? Talk me through that. How do you guys do you actively ask? Are you just like waiting for people to leave it? What's your process there?
Well, we don't do an automated ask, but generally the sales there's a company called Podium. Podium makes it really easy to kind of plug in and send a link. So we do that, and I think a lot of times, even if the sales guys aren't asking, I think we've done a great enough job to where they want to let other people know. They want to let others.
That's part of the communication too. I mean, if they're happy throughout, we want them to feel confident that we're going to do the same thing for somebody else. So, if we hit all the buttons on the way through and don't miss anything and let them know what's happening, why wouldn't we do it the next time, whether it's another project for them or for their neighbor or for their family? So, that helps. It's communication is kind of key with not letting somebody down.
And yeah, I think we have Winter Park. We have two offices, Jim. Winter Park, I think, is 270 reviews, and we're rated a 5.0 for roofing. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And our newer office in Cocoa we opened middle of last year. I think that just has a dozen or so reviews, but so it's a 5.0 as well. But yeah, it's kind of a mix, Jim. It's some it's just homeowners want to do it, and some we've got a couple of the sales guys that make sure that they ask every single time.
Going back, I just had a thought about when we were talking earlier about brand, and you guys really focused on brand. Man, a lot of people don't even understand that. What are some action items that you guys did to build your brand and get your name out there in the community?
Well, do a good job. It's the biggest one is to do what you say you're going to do, and it'll happen, slower than, community sponsorships and putting your name out in the community, but that'll kill it too. It's really, you got to do what you say you're going to do, provide a good project. When you do have problems, step up to the plate, run to the fire, take care of it. Because you can kill one faster than you can build one.
That's for sure.
TV and radio and things like that too help build the brand.
Yeah, that's something that, they're kind of those channels, TV and radio, those marketing channels. They still work, right? Like they can be, you have to have some money to invest in it, but there's something to it of people just hearing and seeing you over and over and over and over and over
Correct.
again.
And it's not just it's not a lead gen type system.
That's right.
And then when they're already doing the research, have already heard of you, and then they check you out and everything's solid on the back end. I forget what you said, Chuck said about they're wanting to work with you. That's kind of, not saying every person who calls the office is a quick close, but it just gives the sales guys a better attempt, a better shot at actually getting the deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Walk by and say, "Oh, you're the guy on TV. I saw your commercial." That's always a really cool feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And that's it works. That's part of it. Those brand impressions is how I refer to them as the more.
Take just a regular lead gen and give the guys a better closing percentage on those, because there's more of a story in the background behind just the face coming to the door. So it takes all facets, and it takes a balance of them. I don't know if we got the perfect balance, what we got's working, but but you can kill it faster than you can build it. That's for sure.
But you said something there, again, and we talked about this. It just gives they're going to have a higher close rate. They're going to everything improves. There's so many levers to pull in a business, right? You can move this, pull that. but there are certain things that are like, they just work. And that is one of them. All the companies that I know that invest in brand, it works. Like and so TV, radio, those are brand type of things.
I think you start more heavy on the lead gen on the front side because you need revenue, and then you kind of change courses over time, and now more dollars are spent on branding than lead gen. Quite a bit more.
What do you guys shoot for as a percentage of your gross revenue in for your marketing spend?
Well, it's kind of different. Part of our business doesn't benefit from marketing, like the multifamily side, working with general contractors and whatnot. A lot of the relationships on the bigger projects. So the revenue, the percentage of revenue doesn't really equate as if we were only doing. Yeah. It is, you know what I mean? So
you would isolate it maybe 3%, 4%, something like that.
Yeah. So relatively low, but I don't even know what percentage of our projects are the big multifamily. Right now, some of them's like half of them because the projects are millions of dollars a piece. So, but we're growing in both sectors, and it goes back to doing the right thing. So we got into multifamily a couple of years ago and got in with two big contractors. And first we had to, go in a little low, a little hard to get the opportunity. And now they're giving us all their work. So it gives us the opportunity that we're going to take advantage of and not let them down and do the right thing. And I don't know why it's such a hard concept.
Yeah, and that's what you do. And it is relationships, right? You mentioned relationships on the multifamily side. It's still relationships on the homeowner side, right? But you kind of, it's not, the buying process is different. So it's a lot of times it's a shorter relationship, right? Like
that's kind of funny, John. I don't know if you can read that on my shirt, but it says BFARR Contracting, building relationships, right below contracting.
Building relationships. That's awesome.
That's our company motto.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so now you said you started a new office. New offices, different locations. How far is Cocoa from you guys? Is it just about an hour?
Cocoa's about an hour east, directly east, just about. And so I've lived over in that area the whole time. So since 2020, I've been commuting and just kind of just sucking it up. But yeah, so that was the goal, was to get that office over there. But we've always kind of like the same way we live our lives outside of work. I think we've always stepped slowly rather than let's hire 15 sales guys and let's do 20 roofs a week. We've always really baby stepped and to make sure that we have the bull by the horns and everything. So anyway, so we got the office in June of last year. My commute went from a 72-mile commute to a 2.3-mile commute. So, and I have a 8-week-old baby daughter. So this is the timing's perfect. But we now have an office administrator over in Cocoa, and we have two guys on our sales team are over at the Cocoa office too. So that's starting to build itself.
How are you guys planning or allocating resources between the two?
We still locations? Share. I mean, it's still one company. It's two locations, so we're able to provide a better service over there than without that office. We're trying to make sure that we're able to carry through with what we say. So having that office facilitates jobs in that area. Having this office facilitates jobs in this area. But most of the production and all of the accounting comes out of the Winter Park office.
Nice.
So it's
and it kind of hurt us at first, right? When we created the Google My Business listing.
Hurt us bad.
It was just like, hey, we got the office in Cocoa. Now we're a local company, and it just turned right off. But we're building that listing so in due time.
Yeah. It's all a process, man. There's always something, right? There's always the next thing to do and the next thing to do and the next thing to do.
But when you think you got it all, something changes. When everything's running smooth, something happens. And if it didn't, nobody'd have a job.
That's right.
Skeleton crews here around the office. So, there's always problems. There's always issues. There's always people. Whenever there's people, there's going to be issues and problems. Whenever there's customers, not all customers are easy to work with.
It's pretty cool too to think about everything that we do day to day is unprecedented. So, that's doubling our sales year after year. We've never had 32 employees. We've never done this many roofs per week. We've never had this many multifamilies. So everything is kind of, everything is new. Everything's exciting. And we're making calls. I guess we're doing a pretty good job of it, but we're making calls as we go. And it's working, Jim.
But that's a good way to think about it, right? It's like you're getting to it's like you get to the next level in the game or whatever it is, right? Like, I haven't played this level before. This is cool. Like, let's do this. Yeah.
Well, I lived my whole life kind of reactive when I first started working, for myself in 2003. But now it's opposite. We're proactive 100%. I mean, we're reactive when things happen, but it's a different mindset, and it's allowed us to be more successful and have less issues.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's helped BFARR become the success that it is?
Do the right thing at all expense. We've had issues come up where a lot of guys could cover them up or whatnot. You didn't include it into the contract. If it's our sales guy's fault, then it's not an expense to the homeowner, So do the right thing when no one's looking. It's probably one of the biggest things.
I've got another one to add too. Is really it's about the people. So rather than focusing on the product, and hey, we got to make sure the products are really just we spend a great deal of time making sure that everybody within the company is happy, they're healthy emotionally, financially, physically. And that seems to translate into a fantastic product and happy homeowners and all that. So that might be a little bit of secret sauce we have there too. Really caring about the people that work here. And when things go bad, especially with a new rep, there's never really, it's we'll figure it out. We'll make it through it. And
make it a learning lesson. It's not a, come sit in my office. It's, what happened? Let's figure it out. Let's get through this one. Everybody, do it once. Don't do it 5 times. Let's learn from this one time. And I think, the sales guys appreciate that. They're the ones making the mistakes out there just because they don't know. So you got to teach them. And when companies hire 15 sales guys, pat them on the butt, and say, go knock doors, I couldn't imagine the paperwork coming in the office. I don't think we could function that way.
No fun. Awesome, guys. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.